This morning's guest listens to other people's stories for a living. You'll want to hear his. Meet him. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Conference Center on the Grand Strand campus of Horry Georgetown Technical College. We're focused on local philanthropic efforts. And we're visiting with the Vice President of University Advancement at Coastal Carolina University, Dr. Danny Nicholson. Good morning, Dr. Nicholson.
Good to be
Mind
with
if we call you Danny?
Danny's fine.
Day after Thanksgiving, we got to take it easy. Obviously, everyone's still fat and happy after yesterday.
Absolutely.
Did you all have a big day?
Wonderful time. Nice to spend some time with my family. Always good to enjoy and be thankful for all the good things we have.
Well, thanks for coming back down from, you were up in Hartsville.
And it was,
yesterday. Well, of course, a lot of our viewers there in Hartsville. We filmed in Hartsville many times.
Is that right?
Campus of Coker College. We've had Dr. Jim
Dawson.
Jim Dawson a number of times. We filmed over at the Governor's School there.
Sure.
We've filmed and had some fascinating folks. The president of Morris College, who's a Hartsville native,
Sure.
came up. Dr. Luns Richardson.
Sure. Hartsville's a wonderful town.
It is, absolutely.
It really is.
We love Hartsville.
Yeah. I was born and raised there and went back to see my parents and always enjoy Thanksgiving at home.
That's great. That's great. And, of course, last Thursday, very exciting here, the Association of Fundraising Professionals had their first National Philanthropy Day, which I think was held here at the Conference Center right behind us here.
It was a wonderful day to get a chance to enjoy a lot of fellowship with others, and a lot of those people are the ones who've invested in this community, done so many great things to make the quality of life stronger in the Myrtle Beach area. So it was a fantastic day.
And I believe you were the featured speaker last year, which was tremendous. I think I'm still getting, there's tears in my eyes about some of the things you shared with folks last week, but also just highlighting, as you said, the local corporate philanthropist of the year, the student philanthropist of the year, and obviously the individual philanthropist of the year. Three special folks, three special groups last week.
Well, actually, I walked in with the president, President DeCenzo, and he said, "You're speaking today." And I said, "Well, I thought that meant you were out of town." So it was great to get a chance to share with others. I've been in this work, philanthropy, for 25 years, Greg.
Is that right? 25 years since out of preschool, yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Where's my checkbook?
I'll take it.
But the truth is, it's great to get a chance to display what so many others have done. There are so many people, including yourself, who have done great, great things. In fact, congratulations for being nominated for Philanthropist of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Thank you.
most deserving. But it's great to see others who have given so much of themselves, sacrificed so much of themselves to try to make our community better, and to have a day that spotlights and honors those people was just fantastic. It really was.
Absolutely. That student philanthropist of the year, the young lady who's a student at Horry Georgetown Tech, right here, a student who's really given back every day. And that idea, when it highlighted that she's a scribe for some disabled students who wouldn't be able to graduate from Horry Georgetown Tech if she wasn't in there taking notes in the class. That was moving when you think about it. The impact of not only doing her own work, but then going to sit in on other classes to be able to help a student get along so they can finish and hopefully go on and do great things to give back to this community as well.
Yeah, you may remember, or you may not, the opening part of my speech. I talked about a quote that I found in a textbook up at Harvard this summer when I had a chance to go study there with other educational leaders.
Right.
And the quote was that ego and self-love block the leader's capacity for empathy. And what we saw in that young lady, and the reason she was awarded and recognized, was because she has a deep empathy for others. An ability to notice when there's a need, a disabled student, to have the compassion. And really at her age, the maturity to sit down and take notes for somebody else is really saying a lot about where she's heading in life. And so to honor that, I can't think of a better thing in the world to do.
Absolutely. Of course, the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce is honoring Nelson and Mary Emily Jackson, or Mary Emily and Nelson Jackson, as the Pioneers of the Year at a big event at the Dunes Club next Thursday. But the real excitement last Thursday was helping to recognize them and the Jackson companies as the Corporate Philanthropists of the Year, which was a big deal. And seeing, and of course, Mary Emily and Nelson well, I believe.
Oh,
Their
absolutely.
involvement.
Absolutely. There couldn't be better example of philanthropy anywhere than Nelson and Mary Emily Jackson and their 5 daughters.
Yeah.
They have done so much for this community. I can speak personally from the university standpoint. The girls, the 5 daughters, came to us during our campaign and were interested in a values and ethics center that we had on the agenda that we wanted to make happen, dream realized. And they said they'd love to name that for their mom and dad because they had tried all their lives to do the right thing, to make ethics an important part of their business. So during the context of our 50th anniversary campaign a couple of years ago, they made a significant gift to name the Nelson and Mary Emily Jackson Family Values and Ethics Center.
That's right. That's right.
So it has made great progress.
Oh, yeah. We interviewed their director this summer up at East
Claudia.
Chicago Pizza. Exactly. Claudia.
Yeah.
And heard about the tremendous board there, including Reverend Bobby Wilkes. I think they were having something at First Presbyterian Church recently. I mean, a very eclectic mix of folks.
David Bennett serves on the board. So many different people that can touch out.
I hate to even name one, but you're right. A lot of folks really making a difference.
Yeah. And Nelson, I think, wanted to touch the children and teach them what's right and wrong. So, I mean, philanthropy extends itself out, and it seems as if once you catch it, you want to teach it, and you want to tell other people. Nelson and Mary Emily are wonderful examples of that.
Absolutely. Of course, Jimmy and Emma Lou Johnson, who were recognized as the actual individual philanthropists of the year, another special couple, and it was so great hearing Jimmy's wife step up there and highlight her husband as a great role model for her, where I'm sure he would have said the same thing had he been the first to the mic about his own wife.
Oh, he better.
They're only girls. That's right. It was fascinating to see the Jacksons having 5 daughters, and I think the Johnsons there having, 4 daughters?
Yeah.
Amazing. Girls run the world. And I think you got 2 boys, Danny, not to take away from having 2 sons there.
I was very thankful for 2 boys.
Yeah,
and Taylor just started, my oldest son, just started Coastal this year. He's a freshman and enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I guess that says a lot about what I think about the education and the quality of the education and the growing momentum of Coastal Carolina University. It has, my son has really been enjoying it. We don't hear from him. So that means he must be having a good time and doing well. And he brought home.
Sure, because he's in the library all the time.
All the time.
Studying all
A's
the
and
time.
B's. You know, he A's and B's.
Probably all A's.
Yeah. So, but he's doing well, and in light of saying that, Coastal's doing well.
That's great. That's a great sign. Coastal's got so much going on right now, Danny.
Incredible.
You know, we filmed there last week in Wheelwright Auditorium. Ann Monk did the little intros each morning. Of course, we had Dr. John Stamey, who's from the Computer Science Department, and highlighting so many amazing conferences. He's kicking off a Computer Security Conference, 2nd annual, down at the Holiday Inn West in April, a Scholarship of Teaching and Learning Conference in March. Very exciting to hear about that. Then we had your new dean of the Wall College of Business Administration.
Oh, Henry's great. Yes, he's
superstar
doing a great
Valerie
job.
Hensley from Step Up. And then last Friday, your Executive Vice President and Counsel there, Eddie Dyer, Dr. Eddie Dyer, who was wonderful.
Eddie's a great guy. Yeah, he's had 30 years or more at the university and holds such a wonderful compilation of institutional memory.
Right.
You know, that's so important for the future to ground yourself in where you've been. So Eddie's a great friend and a tremendous leader at the university.
Absolutely. You had some great snippets in your piece, and I know obviously we've only got about 15 minutes here, but to highlight, would you break down just a little bit? There were a couple of pieces there, some real moving stories from some of your mentors in the past, some folks that really meant a lot to you, both at kicking off your now silver anniversary of helping to raise dollars to support great institutions. Share with viewers a little bit about what you were focused on here with the crowd last Thursday.
Well, I guess the real performance was about thanking people. You know, we can get pretty sophisticated in our articulation of this and that and theories and etc. But when it comes down to it, as far as fundraising is concerned, I spent several years in a dissertation looking at fundraising and leadership, and I've been in this, as you said, for 25 years. And so after a while, you hope you would understand the essence of something. Mm-hmm. And my mother always used to tell me that there's nothing more powerful in the world than a sincere thank you, an appropriate word at the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just reviewed that day, not to get complex about a very simple thing. I just pretty much said thank you, for having the kind of heart and commitment and devotion to the needs of people that would compel you to give your money, your time, your talent. Thank you for making my world, my kids' world, your world a better place. So pretty much, one of the things, Greg, that I think defines philanthropy comes from some research I did under Erickson. Erik Erikson did 8 stages of life. The last stage of life he pulled out and looked at because people got real reflective then about what their lives meant. Mm-hmm. A gentleman named Daniel Levinson came along from Princeton and focused on that last stage. And he labeled that last stage with something we all go through from research speaks to it. Mm-hmm. We all go through what he called this moment of assessment, which is where seemingly every human being has a moment when they look back over their shoulder and see their life all at once in a glance. And make an evaluation of whether it was a life of integrity or a life of despair. There were 3 things in that research, which was a longitudinal study that has a lot of validity. 3 things that people always said in that final stage. 1, if I had a life of integrity, I had intimate relationships. 2, if I had a life of integrity, I built some sort of legacy, something that lives on after me. And 3, if I had a life of integrity, I knew what I believed, whatever it is. They knew where they landed. They didn't flounder.
Right.
I think philanthropy is defined by those things. The building of relationships, the intimacy you have with people to build trust. The legacy, when somebody gives or does something, it carries their name forward. It carries their passion forward. And then, of course, all of it can be wrapped up truly in what you believe and value. You don't give your passion. You don't build relationships with things you don't believe in.
Right.
So that was a few of the things that I shared with the group that was here, because I thought it was important for us to gather around the campfire of what does this word mean.
Philanthropy.
And I think intimacy, relationships, legacy, and what you believe have an awful lot to do with propelling people to do great things.
Boy, you gave a great example, and I think of a special person there in the Baltimore area, the greater Baltimore area. And if you're comfortable sharing that with viewers, I know it's a little prolonged, but you've got time. If you're comfortable sharing it, just a little history on that gentleman. And of course, the last time we were together, I got to say, there's a lot more to Danny Nicholson, a lot more to you than just talking about raising money and helping institutions grow. The last time we were together, we were highlighting your father's heart transplant, I believe, when we were focused on your involvement with the American Heart Association and how that organization has truly touched you and your family's lives thanks to a young donor.
Well, in update, not to move us off track, but in update, my dad had a major aorta valve replacement on a transplanted heart.
Is that right? Wow.
9 months ago, really possibly one of a kind.
Wow.
And he's been alive for 9 months. He continues because of the great research and the efforts of the Heart Association to live. So thanks for mentioning him.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny, share with viewers real quick, go get into it a little bit, the folks out of Maryland and the impact they have had on your life.
Yeah, and story brings meaning. You know that. You do this every day. You talk with people. You get their stories. That's what Carolina People's all about, their stories. And I was in grad school when I was trying to figure out what direction I would take with my studies. And I met an individual named Freeman Hrabowski, who's president of University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Freeman spoke that day in Atlanta. I was just completely taken by his story, by the passion he had. And so I went up to him afterwards and shook his hand in a long line and shook his hand and asked him, could I please come and start my paper by just interviewing him in Baltimore. And he let me fly up 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And I had a chance to spend some time with him. Freeman, when he was 12 years old, was in jail with Martin Luther King in the Birmingham jail.
At age 12?
At 12. Wow. And he sat and watched King struggle in that jail cell. And his love for his people, really inspired him to that day make a commitment that he was going to do something, special. He wanted to do something like King had done. So he went to went to college, finished his PhD when he was 24 years old in statistics.
Wow.
He was somewhat of a prodigy.
Yeah.
And in grad school, he never saw a black man in his classes, and it bothered him because he thought, here I am, I'm excelling, I've got a life to give, I've got a brain to use, I can do something special, and I don't see anyone, with me, my people. So he gave himself to higher education, and he ended up at the institution UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And he began to talk about the plight of the black man and how he cared deeply about opportunities and opening up opportunities, how much he believed in them. So there was a white couple, Bob and Jane Meyerhoff, in the Baltimore area, who was extremely interested in the plight of the black man. They were at a reception with someone, and they said, have you talked with Freeman Hrabowski? And he said, no, I haven't met him yet. So they met 2 weeks later. They spent 3 hours in a room and decided that they were going to do something about this issue that deeply concerned them both. Bob and Jane gave Freeman $15 million.
Oh, Lord, what year was this? I mean, this
would have been probably 93.
Wow.
94.
15 years ago, yeah.
And that pretty much endowed the program and gave Freeman the opportunity to go out across the nation and recruit the very best black talent the nation had to offer. Mm-hmm. He brought them to UMBC, put them through a boot camp where he taught about studying and about ethics, about how important it was to stand up, to do the best you can. And 15 years later, they've produced hundreds of students that have gone to MIT, Harvard, around the world, the best black scientists and engineers this nation has produced. It has been an incredible success, and I would attribute it all to his incredible passion and Bob and Jane Meyerhoff's gift to make that happen. So it's a wonderful story about what Freeman has done. Would you want me to share?
Yeah, we've got about 7 or 8 minutes. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. Well, I really respect Freeman greatly. I'm not sure if there's a person who's any more talented or compassionate about higher education in the world. And so I've followed him, and I've stayed with him and grown a great friendship. And I went up to be with him recently. And I said, Freeman, after all that you have done nationally to create this incredibly powerful program, what is the one thing that you can look back to and say, that made it worth it? And he told me that he was sitting in his office one day, and that Bob Meyerhoff had called him. He said that Bob had taken Jane to Johns Hopkins, his wife. She had a terminal illness. They were trying to keep her comfortable. They were trying to tend to her in her dying days. And that Bob said he was watching the nurses and others take care of her. And he looked around, and through the door came a tall, black, slender man. He said at first he thought he was an assistant, but then he noticed that he was the go-to man, that everybody was coming to him as the lead doctor. So that triggered Bob's curiosity because of his interest. As he watched him tend to his wife, he pulled away as he walked away to say, I wanted to introduce myself to him. I want to know who you are.
Right.
And he walked up to him and he said, son, and the guy stopped him and he said, sir, you don't have to introduce yourself. He said, I'm a Meyerhoff scholar. You're Bob Meyerhoff. Freeman said that Bob went to the phone and called him, that he wasn't a crying man.
Right.
But that he was crying on the other end of the phone, and just said to him, he said, Freeman, when you talk to us with your passion about this program, you said that we would help people for generations to come that we would never know. And he said, I just sat in a room and watched a young black man who had nothing, went to UMBC, became a Meyerhoff scholar, went to Harvard and graduated at top of his class, now is top at Johns Hopkins, tending to my dying wife. The truth is, I really do believe, Greg, that that's philanthropy.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's the core and heart of what makes us Americans, I think, what makes us, our humanity so special, what makes compassion come alive.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. That's very powerful. I don't think, as you shared last week, we were sitting in here Thursday, a couple hundred folks in, and at that moment, obviously, sharing that, it was about as silent as the room could be. It was a very special note that surely impacted a lot of folks there in the room. A lot of long-time givers, not only of their time, but of their pocketbooks, if they had it to give, and a lot of folks who didn't have money to give, who would give of their time, which was very special. You highlighted listening as a real important role as well, and I think that was critical as you got to the core oftentimes of what it takes to know. And in that instance, of course, the 3 hours that were spent there between those three persons, or at least the two of them, if it was, or all three of them there, that first 3-hour listening session there, it must have been a special time. Tie in listening. You got a couple of minutes there. How does listening tie into what you do?
Well, in my study that I did, transformational leadership became the focus, which means you don't just do something for yourself. We do something together, put it together, and make something better for the world. It becomes fused in meaning. And so when I started looking at these top leaders in higher education, John Castine, Gordon Gee, who's at Ohio State University, spent a lot of time with Gordon, I started to notice that what they were focused on with donors or people that they were speaking with was, what is their passion? Not exactly what I've got to say, not exactly how much I know, but can I learn from you what it is that really, really you have a passion about? And I think listening becomes the threshold to the door to understand how people tick and what they really love. Now listen, if you're going to give $1 million, are you going to do it for something that you're not absolutely 150% passionate about? No. So it's important, not just for $1 million, for nothing, to listen to people and value them. And listening becomes, I think, an important tool in helping lead people to make the investments to change the world.
Absolutely. I've heard Brad Dean share that so many times, and he's probably picked it up from somebody, but let's give him credit for it. That idea of we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Should listen twice as much as we speak. And it's a great point when you think about someone sitting there not knowing that a couple would give him $15 million, but listen to what really meant a lot to him.
I think he really wanted to change something.
Right.
And I think he really believed Freeman could do it. And I think trust evolved over that 3 hours.
Yeah, right. That's powerful. Yeah. That's powerful. You know, in the driving force for you, did you find over the course of that getting your doctorate that it really helped to define even better what you'd been doing for 20-plus years at that point when you began your doctorate?
Absolutely. So many people get their PhD early on.
Right.
And I was older going back.
Which is great. Yeah.
But I really felt like, not to say there's a way to do it, but pouring knowledge over application was a very, very strong way for me to solidify how to do this work and what's most important. And then watching people who were mentors and who were respected nationally, who raised billions of dollars a year, to come out with something as simple as listening and understanding the meaning of people's stories and connecting them with the needs of an institution. That place is where great gifts happen. And it transforms people's lives.
And you're seeing that, obviously, at Coastal Carolina University. You've seen tremendous gifts that had never been attained, not only prior to your service, prior to Dr. Ingalls, the later part of his tenure, of course, Dr. DeCenzo, coming on so strong,
Absolutely.
Dr. Dyer, a lot of doctors here. Of course, all you guys are comfortable with just using Eddie or David or Danny or even Ron there, and unlike the medical doctors who obviously have gotten used to that, but it is special to be able to see some of the magnificent changes there. I remember the big day out there, Brooks Stadium, the naming day, and Bob and everyone real casual up there, and Bonnie Bell and Tammy, the whole crew, and then to see Bob head down there, I think with Bonnie Bell even down to the field, and
it was a precious moment.
Special,
it really was. You know, you start naming people and you miss folks. So, but I have to say that one of the things that we really wanted to do, so many have been committed to in the area, Mike Gerald, and others, were trying to build a culture of higher expectations, a philanthropic culture where people understand the meaning of doing that. So, when you start thinking about Bob Brooks, and bless him, what a great man he was. He cared deeply about it. It was his own backyard. He wanted to come back and raise up something that would help his university and his people. It was Nelson Mary Emily Jackson, who just wanted to touch young people and help them see what's right and wrong. It was Brenda Spadoni, who's affected half the teachers in Horry County by naming the Spadoni College of Education. On and on I could go over into individuals who have selflessly given up their material things. I mean, they're doing fine, I know, but they've hurt in their giving to make big gifts, to make transforming things happen at the institution. And honestly, we could not thank them or honor them enough, and this day did that.
Those are great words, Danny. Thanks so much for
Always
being with us
great to be
this
with
morning.
you.
Absolutely.
Always great.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Dr. Danny Nicholson, the Vice President of University Advancement at Coastal Carolina University. Coming up next. Think about those powerful words, that moment of assessment when you're looking back over your shoulder and wondering if life was worth living, if you really made that difference, the legacy and the other pieces he talked about. You can even be involved here at Coastal Carolina University. Pick up the phone, 843-349-2056, or go online to www.coastal.edu. You heard him talking about Bob Brooks doing something for his people right back here, close to Loris, close to Green Swamp, close to where he'd grown up. He could do things for Clemson and other places, but he came right back here to do it. You don't have to have the dollars of Bob Brooks to be able to make a difference at your hometown university. Pick up the phone, 349-2056.